I'm so upset with this movie. I can't even think of like a non sequitur to start this show.
How about AMC's new?
No.
Their pre-movie thing, their strategy.
Can I talk about something that I'm upset with? Is the like ridiculous like bumpers before the movies that AMC is doing?
It's a bit of overkill because they have one before to introduce the trailer, and then in between the trailer they have those new title cards, and now they have a transition from the trailer to their final animation, which tells you. And then they have
at least 6 like PSAs to tell you to turn off your fucking cell phone. And it's like, you know, if you don't get it after the first one, chances are you're not turning off your damn cell phone. Like it's become a point of honor for you to be like texting during the movie at that point.
Yeah.
And and then they have like cows and like they reuse the same models over and over again. I don't know. It feels like
they're trying to be Alamo Drafthouse without being Alamo Drafthouse.
Yeah, except without being clever.
Yeah.
You know, they're just like doing a bunch of like dots and like
beer would have made this movie way more tolerable.
That's the problem. You weren't drunk enough.
Yeah.
I'm drunk on life.
Yeah.
All the time.
Hussein is drunk on being Hussein.
I'm perpetually optimistic.
Welcome to the Swiftfilm Show. With me is Husain Sumra.
Rocks!
John Xavier.
Howdy.
And I'm Donovan, your host. Today's going to be another one of those shows where our friendship dies a little bit because we've reached another schism that cannot be passed. We watched 300: Rise of an Empire.
What empire is rising? Is it the Greek Empire?
Well, I guess.
Did the Greeks have an empire?
They did. They had
Alexander the Great. Yes.
But that was like 300 years later.
Yeah,
right.
So.
Well, no, but defeating the sort of Persian Empire, which they were like the big shit on campus until like. Greece like buffed up a bit and kicked sand in their face.
No, but I feel like
was the hero of the beach.
No, but I feel like 300: Rise of an Empire should have been Marathon, which would have been way more interesting than this movie.
Well, they should have called it that or something.
The title was Battle of Artemisia,
which makes more sense because it's not the Rise of the Empire because they don't beat Xerxes in this one.
There's no Empire Rising.
It's very much like middle movie in a trilogy. Like, oh, by the way, there's 300 is a trilogy now, in case you guys didn't realize.
8 years later.
Very obvious.
Yeah,
8 years
we
later.
waited 8 years, and then they're like, you know what? That movie we made 8 years ago, that needs to be a trilogy. Like, we're adapting existing properties into trilogies that were no longer trilogies. Like,
I blame fanship for this one.
You do?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Warner Brothers was going to let it go. They weren't going to go through with it.
They weren't going to do it.
And then people all of a sudden were like, let's go 302. Let's make another one.
This is like
Jack Snyder was like, I got Superman.
This is like if we were to go back and like now and say, you know what? Demolition Man? That's a trilogy now. We'll make a Demolition Man 2, and that's a direct sequel to Demolition Man 1, and now it's a trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's stupid. We'll get into that later.
What did you guys think of this movie?
Well, okay.
Enlighten me on why this is great.
Before we get into the whether this movie is good or whether this movie is bad, I don't think that's the question here. The question is, was this movie more homoerotic than 300?
No, I don't think so.
I think it was more homoerotic because yes, the 300 had a lot of like shirtless men in loincloths.
And then you have the sexual
penetrating each other with their big phallic swords.
And then you have
this movie had that too, plus sexual tension, plus a very weird May-August romance with like the son of the other guy, which struck me as a little pedophilic. And we're talking about Athens, so that's not much of a stretch.
No. I think the Xerxes Leonidas sexual tension in the first one
was more homoerotic.
Yeah,
I think that's true. There's almost no sexual tension in this movie, and the sexual tension that existed was between a man and a woman.
Yeah,
so that does make it somewhat less homoerotic than the original 300. I know.
I'm with Hussein on this one. I think first one
there's more speeches about like the love and brotherhood between soldiers in battle, and how the only passion you'll feel is when you're fighting beside a man who would go and die for you
with no shirt on.
With no shirt on, yeah, because the Persians have discovered armor. The Greeks have decided no, the only way to fight is bare chested. They will wear. They will wear capes,
which historically historically is like
no shirts,
which historically is like super inaccurate because the Greek army had basically like Kevlar.
Yeah, more or less. But yeah, they're clothed only in their aura of manliness and sweat
and 8-pack abs.
Yeah. And
rippling pec muscles.
Someone needs to like release like the 300 workout that like the extras had to go through to get the level of abs.
I remember when the first 300 came out, like they talked about that. They like because everyone was like, oh, let's talk about the workout, and Gerard Butler's like, yeah, it was awful. That's all I'm gonna say about it. It was awful.
Never again.
Yeah, it's like the amount of calories you're consuming to like have that little body fat is awful, and you're working out like between takes, it's awful. And that's why he didn't want to do a sequel, because he's like, I'm not doing that workout again. And Gerard Butler's a big guy too.
Yeah, no, it's not like Gerard Butler is going from like 90-pound wuss to like Mr. Universe. Like he was going from like Mr. Universe to like Mr. Multiverse. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so all right, so that.
How bad was this movie? Was it bad enough to be good? Go.
I think it was bad enough to be good. It's not traditionally a good movie, but I had an enjoyable time.
All right, I'm gonna say this. It's not just not traditionally a good movie. It's not a good movie. I'm not going to defend this movie on its merits because it has none. I will say that once you realize that this movie is just going to be unrelentingly silly, and it is, it's almost like slapstick how silly this movie is.
Yeah.
And you decide that it's okay to laugh, it becomes a lot of fun.
Yep.
Donovan being the humorless puss that he is.
No, it's not that. It's like, I'm all for, you have to remember, I think one of the funniest movies is The Happening, because that movie is hysterical.
Yeah, that movie is hysterical. I think this movie is hysterical in the same way. It's like such a failure on every level, while still being like so slick and overproduced that it's almost impossible not to laugh at.
I'll laugh at the idea that someone at WB thought this was a good idea to keep going forward with.
Yeah,
it. Let's do this. Yeah, like they saw like the daily rushes. Yeah, this is still great. All right.
Awesome. Cool. Get all these shirtless guys.
You must remember they delayed this movie out of last summer.
Yeah, well, because they
stuck it in March.
Because clearly they were they looked at the scene where they're running into the rocks and they said, you know what, people don't realize they're running into the rocks. What could this scene add?
Rocks!
Oh, a guy yelling, rocks!
No, this movie was dumb. Like, it's not a case. If it was at least entertaining and there was a story that you could easily follow in it, I would have been on board about how dumb that is. That's why I like The Happening, because at least there's a story and it's like, all right, I'm on board. You tell me, M. Night Shyamalan, that they need to outrun the wind and why. This is like, I don't fucking get it. It's like, it's the fact that the story is so fucking convoluted that you can't follow what the hell is going on.
You need to stop trying to follow what the hell is going on, because there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Nothing is going on. The
Greeks want to fight and the Persians want to fight them.
And
that's it.
And
it's too bad. I'm sorry. Like,
stop looking for a plot. There is no plot. It's oiled up guys with no shirts sticking each other with swords. That's all it is.
That was even done poorly.
Yeah, there were a lot of really sort of gelatinous blood sprays.
Yeah, by the way, this was supposed to be in 3D. Yeah. And if you remember the last time I fucking lost it on a movie that was supposed to be in 3D, there was just crap. Okay, hang on, I'll get to the particle effects in a minute. But there's just like spear thrust in the face, blood, all over the screens. I get it, you're in 3D. Get off my fucking back about this.
Yeah.
And then there's the particle effects. Did you guys notice that fucking everything was dusty in this movie? Like they walk into a room and all of a sudden there's a million little dust particles in here. I get it. Stop it.
Yeah, well, they definitely got their budget worth in particle effects.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why they decided they needed so many.
When they got delayed, they were like, you know what? Let's add more particles.
They were looking at it and they're like, you know what? This scene is just not impactful enough.
Let's add some dynamic lighting through that window and add some particle effects.
You know what this needs? A big fucking cloud array of particle effects that we can shine a light through. There needs to be more blood. Yeah, and like the blood effects are really bad.
Everyone had Jello blood.
It's like Call of Duty 4, like when grape jelly gets splashed on the screen when you take damage. It was like that, but in a movie with swords.
Yeah,
so there was a slash animation.
There was a level of like grape jelly blood that I've never seen in a movie and hope to never see again.
Thick jelly.
Yeah,
you know what it was?
Jelly.
It reminded me of the Star Trek movie where the Klingons die in zero gravity and they're bleeding like goo. You guys remember that? It was like that.
Yeah, you're right.
They
were basically bleeding like red gack.
It also feels like they took Spartacus, the TV show.
Yes.
Went off of 300 and took some of that and did their own thing.
No, and
it felt like this went. Hey, you can't have blood effects like us, and it went overboard.
No. This is the thing. This is like the further evolution of like the terribleness of action movies that 300 started. So you have 300, which. It's watchable. It's followable. All right.
I really like the first 300.
I actually like the first.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It's fun.
And the reason and this movie lacks a lot of what made 300
a main character you care about. First off, Gerard Butler, an actor with charisma.
Yeah, an actor with charisma, and Zack Snyder is what this.
Well,
movie
I don't know. I'm not going to lay it all at the feet of Zack Snyder. There was a definite human element to the first movie that was missing in this one.
Yeah,
there was a narrative arc.
Yeah.
If Grease fell, I did not give two fucks. At this point, I hope Grease was going to fall so I could get out faster.
Athens did.
Athens did fall.
Well, burn all of it.
Yeah. It lacked. Yeah, it definitely lacked everything that normally makes a movie good. And that's why the first 300 I think stands alone on itself. It didn't need to be made into a trilogy. The second movie, I think you can have fun with it once you just decide to stop looking for a movie there.
No, but
it's not a movie.
But even that, there was nothing for me to care about.
It's just a succession of sight gags, basically.
I just want to...
No, I can't be convinced this movie is good. I'm sorry, it's awful.
This is the most fun sex scene I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Ridiculous
It was really awkward.
It was impossible not to laugh at.
No, it was so awkward it was funny. It's like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. What I liked about this movie was that it was so bad and so artless in its silliness.
It was artless, that's for sure.
That, the first movie kind of masked how goofy and impossible to take seriously it was.
Through the human elements.
There was enough of a movie there that you didn't realize it pulled a trick on you. There was some sleight of hand, and you didn't realize you were watching something as just completely silly as it was there. There was no sleight of hand here. The silliness was front and center. And if you're the sort of person who buys that a movie like this can be made and not be silly, that's going to be offensive to you. But if you're the sort of person that realizes that the entire concept of this movie is just retarded, seeing that confirmed for you, I think is it's a lot of fun.
Rocks.
Nope.
Rocks.
Nope. It was bad. It was offensively bad. It was a waste of $12. WB should be ashamed of themselves.
Yeah. Well, here's what
we're all agreeing it's bad.
Yeah, we're
arguing about whether it's enjoyable.
Yeah. I say it is, but I think it's only going to be this is going to be enjoyable for two camps. It's going to be enjoyable for people who completely fucking miss the point and just
there are people who are like, this is the greatest movie ever.
Yeah, and just are just in it for the blood spray. Those people are going to have a lot of fun.
And they did have a lot of fun.
They did, yeah.
I hated all of them.
And I've seen people...
The people who are, sort of ready to make fun of a movie like this and ready to, just completely ridicule it and laugh at it, they're going to have fun. The people that are in between, too smart to, too smart to, buy into it completely, but... too invested in the concept to completely dismiss it.
I'm too invested in the $12 I spent for this movie.
Those sorts of people are going to hate this movie. Yeah. So I think it's a small subset of people that are going to like it. Personally, I say it might be worth a rental. I would not go see this in theaters. It is not worth $12.
I'm going to say wait till HBO.
Yeah, it's worth an HBO. I'm sure the Spartacus crowd will love it.
Yeah,
Spartacus is good. I love Spartacus, but this is no Spartacus. This is not even close to Spartacus.
Okay, what about Spartacus, the sequel series?
I liked all of Spartacus.
Okay, I don't know. I don't watch it.
Anyway, yeah, unless
but, like, it was that art. It was that art style to like the nth degree, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was so funny. Like that, I think is like, wow. This is like a feedback loop of that art style.
They took it overboard, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's two camps that'll love this movie. If you fall into one of those two camps,
maybe
go see
Ava Green fans. I could see Ava Green fans.
Who is that? Is that the like
James Bond's love?
Oh, was that the cheap version of Kristen Stewart? Is that who that was?
No, she was in Casino Royale.
She's above this movie. What is she doing here?
She wanted to have fun. She had fun.
Yeah,
she was the only person that had fun and realized what this movie was.
The only person that realized that this movie was full retard and that she needed to go full retard too. She seemed like she was having a good time with it, and like she was the only person in this movie that had any on-screen charisma at all.
Oh yeah. I was rooting for her to win the whole time.
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, like I said, I think there's some people that will enjoy this a lot. Those people, go see it in theaters. Go see it in 3D. Honestly, you probably aren't the sort that are offended by 3D the way some of us are.
You love some particle effects.
If you love some particle effects, like if you do particle effects for a living, and you want to see them get their due, 300 Rise of an Empire.
Look at all that dust in the air. Woo!
We're going to get an Academy Award for dust rendering.
Can't wait till 303.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. So all right, so that was that. I think it's time to go into a segment we've not done for a long ass time.
And it's called This Needs to Stop.
Because this needs to stop. And what needs to stop is every fucking movie being a trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, it's not enough.
Okay, what movies have we seen this year that have all been set up for a trilogy? I think it's been all of them.
Pretty much.
Because, like, RoboCop?
Maybe not Lego Movie, but
No.
I would not.
That's going to be a trilogy. Because they already have a sequel greenlit.
Okay, so that's going to be a trilogy. Yeah. Because you can't just make one movie now. If it makes enough money, you need to make two. And you can't just make two movies. Why not just make three?
And if you're going to make a third, then you can split that book into 4.
Yeah. Well, if you're going to make 3, then you can sell some T-shirts, I guess, is what it is.
And you can sell a trilogy pack and a trilogy re-release.
Right, and a trilogy re-release.
Because of the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, you can have the special director's cut with 6 hours of deleted scenes.
Yeah.
I want to see 6 hours of deleted scenes from 300.
I want to see 6 hours of deleted scenes from The Hobbit, because that would be really interesting, frankly.
Maybe there was 3 hours of a better movie in that was cut out of 300 Rise of an Empire. I don't know.
I want to see the secondary takes of rocks.
Rocks! Like the guy...
Say it a little sadder.
No, you're
it's a question. It's a question this time.
Rocks? All right, now you have a Brooklyn accent.
Hey,
rocks!
All right, now you're really angry at the people who are rowing, that they're still rowing into the rocks. Rocks!
Rocks! It's like the new, like, yeah. Like, I would love to see just the actor in front of a green screen delivering that line over and over again.
Rocks. Rocks?
Rocks!
Hey, rocks.
But yeah, anyway, so everything is a fucking trilogy. It's not enough that we have trilogies. Now we have to go back and take movies that had already
didn't plan to be a trilogy. 300.
8 years ago, we've had 8 years and say, nope, we're resurrecting that as a trilogy. It's like we're taking things that are already existing properties and just turning them into a trilogy. Like, we're going to turn Godfather into a trilogy again. A second trilogy. A sixth-trilogy.
Really?
No.
Oh.
But that would be funny.
Oh, man.
Even Sony... they made Amazing Spider-Man 1, but now they're making a new trilogy.
Right.
That's why there's 4 movies. The first one doesn't count. It's the new trilogy.
Exactly. They're starting a trilogy from the second movie.
So
how can you do that?
So they're having a quadrilogy.
No, the first one doesn't count.
Doesn't count.
The first one's a standalone. The trilogy starts with the second one.
Oh my god.
I guess. God. Yeah, everything has to be come in 3s. Everything.
Yep.
Everything.
And it's just bad. It's bad for everyone.
It rarely does it work. I mean, occasionally a trilogy is good through the whole thing. Lord of the Rings, I think, is a good one. partially because it was conceived as a trilogy, they didn't do the thing that most movies do where they make a standalone movie and then it makes a shitload of money and suddenly it's a trilogy.
Back to the Future.
Or they make a first movie just sort of floating it as a trial balloon and then they say, okay, it made enough money, now it's a trilogy. Like, that movie went into it saying, hey, we're making a trilogy. That's
because there are 3 books. It just makes sense.
Yeah, and we know you nerds are going to go to this thing no matter what. So we're not even going to like do the thing where we just make a completely self-contained movie for the first one. You end up getting shit like 300. Like the second movie in a trilogy is always completely superfluous because all you're doing is setting up the third movie.
Yeah.
You know, and it's even worse when the first movie was conceived as a standalone because then the second movie has to basically justify the fact that it's a trilogy.
Yeah, and it has to flesh out smaller details that were just kind of throwaway shit in the first movie.
Or even worse.
Which they did a lot of in this one.
Or even worse, where the first movie is has a self-contained arc where it has a clear villain, the villain's defeated at the end of the movie. Then the second movie has to say, oh, that main bad guy, he was not the real main bad guy. This guy's the real main bad guy. And you find that out because he, like, kills the love interest from the first movie in the first 15 minutes of the second movie. You know what I mean? Like, that is the worst way to set up a trilogy. And that's what we're getting more and more of.
Yeah, it's awful. I hate it. I just want standalone movies.
I don't care. I don't mind trilogies. I mind, like, superfluous didn't need to be a trilogy movies.
No, it's like, rarely is there a movie that needs a sequel.
There are movies that need a sequel.
There are.
But they should be standalone sequels. Yeah, you know what I mean?
They should be conceived as a sequel.
Yeah, or they could make the sequel its own standalone movie instead of deciding that that your trilogy is going to be one story told over 3 movies. It used to be like we would have sequels; they would be standalone movies. Beverly Hills Cop 2, completely divorced from Beverly Hills Cop 1. Still a good movie. Same with Beverly Hills Cop 3. There was not a grand arc over all 3 Beverly Hills Cop movies.
No, and I think Husain brought up a good point with Back to the Future, is that the first Back to the Future is a great movie standalone. Mm-hmm. Granted, that was conceived as a trilogy, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I believe it was.
Or it was at least conceived as 2 movies.
I believe it was.
Yeah. But, I mean, you can watch Back to the Future 1, and it's still a complete movie. Back to the Future 2, still a complete movie. Back to the Future 3, not so much. But, like, those movies, you can watch them...
Well, I don't know. Back to the Future, it's not as good a movie, but it's still a complete movie. There's a definite arc throughout that film. But same with the second one, same with the first one.
But there isn't, like, you don't need to see all 3 of them to see how Marty's going to change, because he grows in each movie and becomes a complete character.
Right, yeah. Like I said, he has an arc throughout it. You look at 300, the first movie has a definite arc. Second movie, there's nothing happening.
There's like a quarter of an arc.
It doesn't even begin to have an arc. Like, there's no character development anywhere because there's no characters.
You know what 300 Rise of an Empire is? It's the filler scenes that got cut from the first 300 and they just smashed them together.
No, it's worse. It's a side story of the main, like, okay, because the thing is, like, there was Thermopylae.
It's a side plot.
It's a side plot. It's a side plot.
Yeah, it is. It actually is, because, like, nothing that happens in it. It happens basically while 300 is happening, and, like, the grand sacrifice of the Spartans is what unites everybody to
turn on
Xerxes. Like, the side story that's happening with, like, the Greek fleet, like, fighting the Persian fleet doesn't even matter. And, like, you know, it's like, it literally does not matter. It's a side story. You're right.
Yeah.
By
the way, there's still this massive army marching on you.
It's like they cut out 15 minutes from the first one and then just
made it
expanded
a full
it to
90-minute movie. Yeah.
It's like we're watching, like, the deleted scenes from the first movie. You know, it's
exactly.
like...
Or like the web shorts.
Yeah.
That have been made into an entire movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. That's the worst thing you can possibly do with a trilogy, but it's like what happens.
And the thing is, too, is that, so 300 is based off of an actual historical battle, and frankly, there's, like, in, like, that war between the Persian Empire and, the formation of Greece as a nation, there's Marathon, which they reference, which would have made a more interesting movie. There's Thermopylae, which was 300, and then there's a battle after this one where, like, Persia was actually defeated, right, John?
Yeah.
Which is probably another interesting movie.
I think this one was also based on a naval battle.
It actually was.
Yeah, this was an actual naval battle.
This is the point where
that naval battle was also a side story to the actual battle at Thermopylae.
Not exactly. The naval battle, the naval defeat that happens at the end of 300. By the way, that naval defeat is like the last 15 minutes of this movie. That was probably the turning point of this war.
Yeah, because they couldn't land troops and get supplies to them.
Right at that point, because the whole like fleet was destroyed, and like Persia's army, like not to nerd out too much about this, they had real logistics problems from the beginning because they were not a united army necessarily. Xerxes...
It was just like, what, a band of mercenaries, wasn't it?
It was a lot of mercenaries, but it was also... Xerxes, basically, when he defeated a people, he incorporated their army into his own army. So It was a bunch of armies with very different levels of training, very different tactics, glommed together into a big whole. So, yeah, there was, hundreds of thousands of people, but they didn't fight well together, and there was no tactics. And so when you added the level of logistics breakdown of not having a fleet to supply an army of hundreds of thousands of people, you end up with the like stunning military defeat that we're going to see in the third movie now, I guess.
It won the weekend, so it's gonna happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so this needs to stop. Please, if you're going to make a trilogy, just conceive of it as a trilogy. If you're going to make a sequel to a standalone movie,
Make it an interesting sequel.
Just make a standalone sequel. Let's bring back the concept of the standalone sequel. If you're going to make 3 movies, just make 3 movies using the same characters.
Because honestly, if they had a standalone sequel that was like the Battle of Marathon, I would have been on board.
Yeah.
It probably would have been a better story. It would have fixed everything that was probably wrong with this movie.
Also, wait until you get crowd reactions. Mm-hmm. Like with Warner Brothers, when Superman Returns came out, that was supposed to be an entire trilogy. Superman Returns came out, it made a lot of money, but no one liked it. Mm-hmm. So they said, okay, never mind, we won't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's that. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, do that.
Certainly.
If people hate your movie, don't make a sequel to it.
Yeah, abandon your plans for a trilogy if your second movie bombs horribly. But, yeah, I think the bigger point is we've lost the idea that you can have one movie that stands alone instead of having an overarching arc for 3 movies.
It's a mix of the Lord of the Rings and Marvel's influences.
Yeah, and also I think there's a business aspect to it because they figure that if the second movie ends on a cliffhanger, people have to come back to see the third movie.
But if you make a good first movie, they'll come back and see the second one. If you make a good second movie, they'll come back and see a third one.
Right. I think more people are turned off by the whole concept of this, because story told over 3 movies, particularly when the first movie is always a standalone.
And because, it kind of becomes begrudgingly, too. It's like, I guess I have to go see another one of these stupid things to figure out what happens.
Was anyone happy to see the third Matrix movie?
No.
No.
God, that was awful.
I was excited for it.
Well, that's
really?
But I did not,
Well, that's your fault.
It was high school.
You should have known better.
It was high school.
After
you saw Matrix Reloaded and said, you know what, Revolution, you get a pass. I'm ready to like you.
Yeah.
The worst.
Okay. See this is the problem. This is why people keep making these stupid
because of
soulless,
people like me.
Yeah, trilogies because of people like Husain.
Or be like Twilight and just get more bonkers and fun to watch.
Yeah. Just stop giving a fuck. Yeah, there's that too. I guess that's a way you can go and just say fuck you, fans.
I'm going to have a werewolf man punch the ground and open it up.
This thing that you like is dumb, and let me show you how
Breaking
dumb...
Dawn Part 2.
Yeah.
A werewolf punches the ground, and it opens up, and people fall in.
Twilight, Breaking Dawn, and Breaking Dawn Part 2, particularly Breaking Dawn Part 2, are some of the finest parodies Hollywood has ever produced.
Okay.
But it's basically the filmmaker saying, we're sick of this shit, you're going to see it anyway... We think
you're gonna like it.
You're gonna see it anyway.
I have to work on this movie for a year and a half, so I'm gonna have fun with it.
No, it's basically they're saying you're gonna see this movie anyway. You're gonna like it anyway. We think this thing that you love is dumb, so let's show you how dumb it is.
That's why in the director in Breaking Down Part 2, they have that little baby. instead they made a creepy ass Chucky doll that was the baby and used that. They were gonna actually use it until someone's like, you know what, that's a little too far. Let's use a CG baby.
It's a little too on the nose.
Well, we can be more clever with this.
Yeah, let's mask our naked contempt for Twilight fans a little bit more. Anyway, yeah. So, Swiftfilm pick of the weeks: Twilight Breaking Dawn, part 1 and part 2. Because you're not going to go see 300. You
shouldn't.
You shouldn't go see 300. What you should do is look these films up on Netflix because they're just as funny as 300.
So what is it? We're Beverly Hills Cop 2, Back to the Future 1, and Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 2. Those are our picks.
If you want to see a good trilogy, Back to the Future. If you want to see how the concept of standalone sequels works, watch any of the very fine Beverly Hills Cop movies.
Yeah.
And if you just want to laugh, Breaking Dawn Part 1 and Part 2. All right.
This is a weird conversation.
Yeah.
What are we seeing next week?
The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Finally.
Yeah. This movie apparently is breaking all kinds of like indie records. With its even in its limited
Most
release.
per theater.
This is the first movie I've seen. I haven't seen it yet, obviously, but it's the first movie I've heard of. This is the first movie I've heard of in a long time that hasn't had any like embargo. Like the moment people see it, they're allowed to review it.
Probably because it's good.
Yeah, it's probably because it's great.
Exactly. And honestly, I think embargoes are kind of dumb for indie movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're gonna have a limited release, you want people talking about it, unless it's complete shit. And this is not complete shit, obviously, because people love it. All early signs point to a hit.
Fun fact, little side note about when movie reviews get published in publications. Movies usually release open on Fridays and Thursdays. If the movie's terrible, you can always tell it's going to be terrible beforehand because they'll hold the reviews until that day.
Mm-hmm.
So if the movie's awful, you won't see the review until Friday. If the movie's great, you'll see it like 3 weeks in advance.
Right. Yeah, because filmmakers know, based on the early reactions from their test audiences, whether a movie is going to be a hit or not. They don't know necessarily before they commit all the money to make the movie.
Which seems odd. Like, how did you think this was a good idea with 300 Rise of an Empire?
A lot of things changed during production.
There's a lot of things changed
Wizard
during
of Oz
production.
had 10 directors and was going to be a Godfather 2. They thought they were going to be disasters.
When you're talking about when you're talking about a movie, you're talking about a very complex system.
Yeah.
As much as people want to think of directors as sort of the auteurs of movies, that's not the case at all. And a good movie is the result of any number of outside almost uncontrollable factors coming together to make
Jaws
something.
shark breaking down.
Right, coming together to make something greater than the sum of its parts. So I don't blame them for not knowing, but they definitely know once the first test screenings come back whether they're going to have a hit or not.
But nonetheless, we're expecting a hit next week with the Grand Budapest Hotel.
Hopefully.
Because
I think Donovan needs his spirits renewed after this movie.
And what better than wispy Wes Anderson? Not Paul, Wes Anderson.
Yeah,
Paul Anderson's totally...
Paul W.S. Anderson.
He could have directed this.
I'm surprised that he didn't.
He ghost directed it.
Yeah. All right.
Nonetheless, remember you can follow us on Twitter at Swiftfilm, swiftfilm.com. Facebook.com/Swiftfilm, Swiftfilm on SoundCloud/Swiftfilm, Swiftfilm on the iTunes library, and YouTube, we're on YouTube as well. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next week when hopefully we see a good movie.